Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sadhrijatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Samsajivam Sadvaitam Sadvitam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sadhana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Anchikapa Chudishcha Vipasamaya Chaptitina Pami Vaishnavamscha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So 27, no 28 of September 2020 in Hillsborough, North Carolina. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 20, Text 29. This is the description of rainy season and autumn. Dadyodanam samanitam Dadyodanam samanitam Shilayam salilantike Shilayam salilantike Sambojaniya Bhubuje Sambojaniya Bhubuje Gopai Sankar Shananvita Gopai Sankar Shananvita
Dadyodanam samanitam
Dadyodanam samanitam
Shilayam salilantike
Shilayam salilantike
Sambojaniya Bhubuje
Sambojaniya Bhubuje
Gopai Sankar Shananvita
Gopai Sankar Shananvita
Dadyodanam samanitam
Dadyodanam samanitam
Shilayam salilantike
Shilayam salilantike
Sambojaniyar Bhubuje
Sambojaniyar Bhubuje
Gopai Sankar Shananvita
Gopai Sankar Shananvita Dadyodanam samanitam Shilayam salilantike Sambojaniyar Bhubuje Gopai Sankar Shananvita Dadyodanam samanitam Shilayam salilantike Sambojaniyar Bhubuje Gopai Sankar Shananvita
Dadyodanam
Dadyodanam
boiled rice mixed with yogurt.
boiled rice mixed with yogurt
Samanvitam
Samanitam
scent.
scent
Shilaya
Shilayam
on a stone.
on a stone
Savila antike
Salilantike
near the water. Sambojaniyayi
Sambojaniyai
who would take meals with him. Bubuje
Bhubuje
ate. Gopai
Gopai
together with the cowherd boys. Sankarshana Anvitaha
Sankarshana Anvita
in the company of Lord Balaram.
the company of Balaram.
BBT translation, Lord Krishna would take his meal of boiled rice and yogurt, sent from home, in the company of Lord Sankarshana and the cowherd boys who regularly ate with him. They would all sit down to eat on a large stone near the water. There's no BBT purport. We're going to look at Life of the Bhagavatam, text 26. Srila Prabhupada's translation of this verse, the Lord enjoyed in the company of Lord Baladev and the other cowherd boys, and sometimes sat with them on the same stone slab. While sitting, they ate simple food like rice, dal, vegetables, bread, and curd. By curd, probably means yogurt, which they had brought from their homes and which they shared in friendly exchanges. So as we often see in Srila Prabhupada's translation, he puts part of the purport into the translation. He's adding dal, vegetables, and bread. It was the sense we just talked about, rice and yogurt. And shared and friendly exchanges. Prabhupada's commentary in light of the Bhagavatam. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has expressed his willingness to accept fruit, flowers, leaves, and water from his devotee when they have been offered to him in devotional affection. So who knows that verse? Everyone knows it. Patram Pushpam Palantvaya Yoge Bhakta Pranachati Karaham Bhakti Parikam Ashnani Parikatmaha. If one offers me, yes?
If one offers me a glove, a fruit, a flower, or water, I will accept it.
And leaf.
And a leaf.
The Lord can eat anything and everything, because everything is a transformation of his own energy. When does the Lord eat? Lots of other things besides leaves, flowers, fruit, and water.
Universal
In
form.
the universal form. What's he eating in the universal form?
Human beings.
Human beings. He's eating the soldiers. They're getting crushed between his teeth. Right? And at the end of the whole manifestation, everything gets sucked into the body of Mahavishnu. Yes? Everything. So the Lord can eat anything and everything, because everything is but a transformation of his own energy. But when there's a question of offering him something, the offerings must be within the range of the eatables the Lord has ordered. We cannot offer the Lord that which he has not ordered. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, cannot be offered anything beyond the range of good foodstuffs, like rice, dal, wheat, vegetables, milk, and no preparations and sugar. At Jagannath Puri, the Lord is offered such foodstuffs, and in all scriptures, the very same foodstuffs are mentioned everywhere. The Lord is never hungry, nor does he require any food to fill his empty stomach. So we have a machine, right? Yantra, Runa, and Maya, we have a machine, and our machine needs fuel to run. For if the machine doesn't get fuel, it can't function. So therefore we feel hunger. But the Lord doesn't have a material body like a machine that needs fuel. He doesn't have this sense of hunger for food that we have from this machine. He is complete in himself. So he already has everything. All the possible food he could eat is already there. You could say he already is the food. Yet he always mercifully eats the foods offered by his devotees in sincere affection. The cowherd boys brought simple foodstuffs from home, and the Lord, who is constantly served by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune, is always glad to accept such simple foodstuffs from his devotee friends. Isn't that a sweet scene? Huh? Who has this idea of God? All the relatives of the Lord are his devotees only, and they are situated in different transcendental mellows as friends, parents, and lovers. The Lord derives transcendental pleasure by accepting services from his various grades of devotees who are situated in various grades of rasas. These transcendental rasas are pervertedly reflected in the material atmosphere, and thus the spiritual living being, out of ignorance only, vainly seeks the same bliss in matter. Alright, we're going to look at commentaries of the Acharyas. We're going to look at Jiva Goswami's commentary. He took food brought by his relatives or brought by friends who were nearby. He ate with cowherds who were qualified to eat with him, being similar in caste, sabojayayai. Some means together. Or, you look like this, Sambojan iyai can mean together with condiments. Do you know what condiments are?
Pickles.
Like pickles. Yeah. So a few years ago, I was in a grocery store in America, and I asked one of the workers there, where are the spices? And she gives me this look. The what? I said, where are the spices? She was really confused. And she says, oh, I know. She takes me to where the ketchup and the mustard. I said, do you cook? She says, no, I never cook. This is our modern society. So maybe they had some condiments. Like, you remember the story of Brahma stealing the boys and cows? So the choice, it says Krishna had yogurt and rice and fruit. Like today we even got yogurt and rice. So then he had yogurt, rice, and fruit in his left hand, and he had pickles in his right hand. And Jiva Goswami also says Balaram was in their midst. And so we're going to look now at Sanatana Goswami's commentary. The food brought with them, packed by Yasoda, was brought closer by the boys at the appropriate time, or was offered by each of them as a gift to Krishna, Samanitam, because it was plentiful and sweet. He ate on a stone plate, since the food was liquid with plentiful yogurt, and because the stone became beautiful after being cleansed by the showers. So this is after the rainy season. So, you know, when you find stones and then you wash them, they often become more beautiful, right? I used to do it as a kid all the time. Collect rocks and then wash them and see what different colors manifest. He ate near the water. In that season, there was water everywhere. Or he chose a spot near the water in order to drink water. So nowadays, right, we're all carrying bottles of water everywhere, right? People drinking bottled water, filtered water. I remember Bhakti Swami saying, pretty soon people are going to have to start carrying oxygen canisters around. You know, when I was growing up, right, when we were kids, we didn't buy water. You just drink the water. And when I was 16, I went on a bicycle tour, a youth group through the Rocky Mountains in Canada, through Jasper Banff National Park. And one of the things that struck me then was you could drink any of the river water. You know, you find the rivers and the streams, but don't worry, you can drink it. And so imagine that, an earth where you could actually drink the river water and the stream water. So they wanted to have their picnic near water, so if they wanted something to drink, they didn't have to bring water with them. You know, I was talking the other day about how he photoshopped a picture of a waterfall in Boulder. But there were actually, you know, waterfalls, and of course, you know. He had all the boys eat since they ate together on one stone plate. He made them sit down in one place. Balaram made them come together as one, Sankarshana, since the two boys were not separate from the other cowboys. Sankarshana also means to trap. Or Shila, known in the singular, can mean many stone plates, so there was not enough room on one plate. Krishna made the boys sit in rows, putting Balaram in the center, and personally served the food and made them eat. Then he ate. Wonderful commentaries. So we were just studying yesterday in our Bhakti Shastri course about the 6 loving exchanges between the devotees. Right? And they involve what? 3 things. What are the 3 things involved in the loving exchanges? Prasadam, gifts, and
exchanging
confidences. Exchanging confidences. So one of them is exchanging food. You give food and you get food. Yes? So these loving exchanges go on between the Lord and his devotees, and between the devotees and one another. And Prabhupada makes this astonishing statement in the purport that the purpose of our Krishna conscious society is to facilitate these loving exchanges. I found that very astonishing statement. It's one of the reasons why Srila Prabhupada established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, so we can have loving exchanges with each other. And then he says the life of the Krishna Conscious Society is nourished by these loving exchanges. And just like Srila Prabhupada mentions in the end of his commentary in light of the Bhagavatam, people are engaging in these exchanges in a perverted way with matter. So everyone's trying for these loving exchanges, and Prabhupada talks about in his purport to Nectar of Instruction Text 4, that these loving exchanges are prevalent everywhere. He says even when business people want to make a deal, right? They meet in some restaurant, or maybe get invited for dinner over to the home of one of them, and somebody cooks and somebody eats, and there's often an exchange of gifts. So this goes on everywhere, right? In families all over the world, people show their love for each other by eating with each other, isn't it? Right? You go to your grandma's house and she cooks for you, or you come home for Thanksgiving and your mother's cooking. right? We visit with friends and people are cooking and sharing foods and gifts of food to one another and so forth. The problem is that if it's on the material platform, as Prabhupada says, it's not satisfying. Yes, we have this experience. We all have this experience. That often our very attempts to have a loving exchange materially, all they bring us is angst. Like, oh my God, I gotta go visit the relatives for Christmas. Do I have to see Uncle Joe again? I hate Uncle Joe. You know, and Aunt Sally's always talking about her rheumatism. And then my cousin's gonna bring the cake, and she's a terrible baker, and we gotta pretend to like her cake. You know? And you just, it's not actually a pleasant experience, isn't it a fact? Right? And you go to some restaurant with somebody, and you don't like the food, and you have to pretend you like the food, and then you get the bill, and it's $200. I remember my father telling me how he took my older sister and her husband out to dinner in the theater in New York, and the whole evening cost $1,000. You know, so just one meal, you know, one meal and entertainment. It costs so much money, and why did I spend so much money? Yes, unfortunately, our material relationships are like that we're thinking, I'm going to have a loving exchange. Right? One devotee recently asked about Prabhupada's assertion that real rasa is not generally possible between different species, and Maharaj gave such a nice answer to that a few weeks ago. You know, you're petting the dog thinking, oh, this dog is my best friend, and the dog is thinking, this person is the source of my food. They're not thinking, you know, and if there's no food to eat, the person is my food. You know, if the person stops feeding me, well, then I can eat them. So the thoughts in the mind of the animal and the person are very different, but that's often true between humans as well. You know, I'm thinking, oh, this person really loves me and really cares about me, and the other person's thinking, what can I get from her? Isn't it? Or sometimes it goes the other way. Someone's thinking, oh, Urmila really likes me, and I'm thinking, I actually can't stand you, but for this and that purposes, I'm pretending to like you. Yes? And nowadays with electronics, it's really bad. You can think you're having a conversation with them, and they're doing something totally different on their computer. Isn't that a fact? And you're going, yeah, that's really interesting, and you're doing something totally different. We find this with teaching classes on Zoom, right? I was teaching some classes last semester to the kids, and you know, I'm noticing that one of the students had their headphones in, and they're going, they're not doing that to my teaching. They're obviously just sitting on the computer listening to something else. So there's often this disconnect, and when the other party doesn't reciprocate the way we like, we become very upset. And this is one of the clues as to whether or not we have what Krishna and always talk about in chapter 32 of the 10th Canto, a merchant relationship. When the other person doesn't satisfy me the way I want. I cooked a dinner for you, I worked for 8 hours, and you didn't even like my dessert. And we become angry. You didn't do anything for me in exchange whenever the other person disappoints us. So those are the material rasas. So but there is an origin, like Krishna talks about in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that this world is like a what? What does he say at the beginning of the 15th chapter? The world's like a what?
Banyan tree.
Banyan tree, but not a real banyan tree, a inverted, reflected. When I was growing up, we had an oil painting in our house, a huge painting of trees reflected in the water. So this is a banyan tree, and banyan tree, if you haven't seen one, is very complex. And it's upside down, reflected in the water, and the water is shimmering. So the upside down reflection is indicative that there's a real tree somewhere. Everything comes from Krishna. So we may be frustrated, we will be frustrated, we are frustrated in our material so-called rasas, but the fact that we want these, that we want loving exchanges, we want loving exchanges. Animals want loving exchanges. I haven't seen it, but I was reading a news article about some movie of this man who made friends with an octopus, a documentary of a man who for 1 year was diving and watching this octopus, and the octopus gradually came to trust him. And she would curl up in his hand and hug him with her tentacles. And the review was saying, it was a total tearjerker, and it was really, emotionally evocative, this love between the man and the octopus. So the octopi, they're looking for loving relationships. Everyone. Prabhupada talked about how Dr. Bose, he detected that there were feelings in the trees. That the trees could tell, is this person a friend or an enemy? We're looking for love because there is such a thing. It's not that we become disappointed in our material relationships and then we all become impersonalists. And we say, everybody in this world is a cheater, not realizing that includes me too. And therefore, I'm just going to give up on all my relationships. No, we look for those relationships with Krishna. And what descriptions of the relationships that Krishna has with the devotees. Here is described, he sees all his devotees like family. In all the different rasas, he sees everyone like family. And he's tasting the simple food which he's enjoying as much or more than that cooked by the goddesses of fortune. Lakshmi Sahasra Satasamram Sevimana. He's served by all these goddesses of fortune who definitely are expert cooks. They don't even need your cookbook. And they're still expert. A Purva never has to go in the kitchen of Lakshmi Devi and say, you put in too much turmeric. You didn't salt it enough. They're all wonderfully expert cooks. I think sometimes it says Srimati Radharani never even cooks exactly the same thing twice for all of eternity. So he's got all these expert cooks, goddesses of fortune, who can serve him on gold plates, diamond plates. And he's eating out on the forest. What kind of plates is he eating off of? Stone. Shila, the word is Shila. Yeah? Oh, we went back to the verse, thank you. Shila. He's eating off of Shilas. What Shilas does he often eat off of, by the way? Govardhan Shilas. It's one of the services that Govardhan provides in the Gopal Champu. Jiva Goswami describes, I was tempted to bring that slideshow. Jiva Goswami often, as a section, he describes how Govardhan is offering everything to Krishna, just like we offer in our Devi worship. Right? There are 5 items that's the minimum. You have to offer those 5 items every day to the Lord, as is in Chaitanya Charitamrita. But then generally it's 16 items that's offered, and then there's 64 items that's offered. I think Jiva Goswami lists about 25 that Govardhan is offering to Krishna. Water for washing the feet, water for washing hands, water for rinsing mouth, offers fans, and so many things. That's a wonderful, wonderful meditation. And one of the things that Govardhan offers is stones for sitting and stones for eating off. Of course, Govardhan is Krishna, but as Haridasi Varya is the best servant of Krishna. Krishna often likes to be a servant. So Krishna is also serving his devotees. So they're eating on the stones. Krishna's God, and he's eating in the forest on the stones. He's not eating on a table with plates. He's eating on the stones with his friends. And whatever they bring from home. Yogurt mixed with rice. In South India, you basically don't have a meal without what they call curd rice. And curd rice, it's interesting. They don't serve sweets for dessert. They serve curd rice for dessert. And the reason they say is that the enzymes in the yogurt, by curd in the yogurt, the enzymes in the yogurt clean your mouth and clean your teeth and prevent cavities. And whenever I go to South India, I struggle with a lot of the prasadam because it's very spicy. But I always like the curd rice. I know that if I eat the curd rice, I'll be happy. So, and of course, dozens and dozens of varieties of curd rice. So Krishna's eating this curd rice. It's a very simple preparation. It's not some, like Urmila in her cookbook has all these fancy preparations for rice. I mean, there's one of them, I cook it in big quantities, like 25, 30 cups of rice. And it takes hours. It takes like 4 hours to make this one prep. You've got to roast these spices, and then after roasting them, then you let them cool, then you grind them, and then you have eggplant that you're soaking in turmeric and salt and water, and then you combine them, and then you have the saffron, and you have the pistachios, and you have all these different parts of the prep, and then you put them together. By the way, it's a knock your socks off rice. But it takes hours and hours and hours to make this very complex prep. And I tried adjusting her recipe to make it a little faster, but not quite as good as the original recipe. But here Krishna's just eating curd rice. He's not eating a fancy, toast your coriander seeds and grind them up kind of rice, and soak your eggplant and turmeric. Just curd rice. And he's just eating with his friends who consider him as an equal. Right, we were saying the other day, sometimes when the friends share food, they're a little devious. They say, "Oh, look, there's a monkey over there." And then when Krishna looks at the monkey that's not there, they take the samosa, take out the vegetables, and put jasmine flowers in it and put it back on his plate. And Krishna's enjoying that more than he's enjoying all the fancy preparations in life. Because he's having fun. God is a child. I was walking out with Abhimanyu the other day, right after it rained. It was a big mud puddle. And of course, what does a child do when they see a mud puddle? There's no stopping it, right? I had just put those pants on, I came back and said, well, those pants lasted a long time. As the children do, they just play to play. We don't usually do that as adults. Everything has to be very serious. You can't just play. What's the purpose of what you're doing, Prabhu? But when you're a child, you just have fun to have fun. It's interesting that the highest level of meaning in existence is just play to play. The most meaningful activity possible is just to play with God for no purpose other than to have fun with God. You don't have to accomplish anything. As Prabhupada says, Krishna's not hungry. I have to eat to accomplish something. If I don't eat, my body won't work. And if I'm fasting for a while, first when I'm fasting, my brain is super sharp. Because no blood is going to the stomach. But after a while, the brain starts to get duller and duller and duller without any glucose, And after you're fasting for long enough, you're kind of like, what? Right? And you can't do any serious work on a fast. And you can't do any serious physical. So I have a purpose in eating. And then I have a purpose of enjoying the taste on my tongue, and I have a purpose of enjoying that feeling of fullness. And Krishna doesn't have a purpose like that. He doesn't need glucose for a brain. He doesn't need energy to, clean his house or cut wood. He doesn't have a purpose. And he doesn't need to enjoy some sense gratificatory procedure of taste on his taste buds. He doesn't have anything to fulfill. It's just a loving exchange. And it's a loving exchange with the boys. It's a loving exchange with his brother, who's himself. It's a loving exchange with the stones. It's a loving exchange with the stones, which are maybe Govardhan stones, maybe a form of himself, or maybe a devotee taking the form of a stone in Shantaras, mixed with some Dasi love. And Krishna's having this stone is so happy. Imagine. So Krishna's sitting on you. Imagine your stone. Krishna's sitting on you. And he puts his curd rice on you, but it's a little liquidy. And so, you've just been bathed by all the autumnal rains, the monsoon rains, and you're nice and clean, And then Krishna puts this curd rice on you, and there's this kind of yogurt dripping on you, and then Krishna's touching you with his petal-like fingers and lifting the curd rice off of you to eat it and giving it to his friend. I mean, how wonderful. And Krishna's having a relationship with the water. You know, he makes sure he eats near water. And the water, if he's by the Yamuna, which is not said here, but the Yamuna is a person. Actually, the Yamuna is a form of the Shakti Gopal. And her form is Lindy. She marries Krishna in Dwarka. And Krishna's drinking that water. I mean, sometimes we say this in affection, right? Like when I'm hanging out with the great grandkids, and we're kissing them, you know, we're kissing their arms, and we're blowing bubbles in their belly, and we're going, oh, I can just eat you up. Oh, you're a delicious baby, right? We talk about it. Of course, we actually eat babies that way. But Krishna's actually drinking the water. That's his devotee. And they're eating the food. But it's not a machine that's digesting food. It's simply a loving exchange. And the Lord is serving the devotees. The cowherd boys are serving Krishna. Krishna's serving them. It's not a one-way street. It's a real reciprocal relationship. You know, the families are cooking at home, and they're in the village meditating how Krishna's eating in the forest. Oh, right now it's lunchtime, Krishna's eating. Like if we have friends or relatives in other parts of the world where we're thinking, what time zone are they in? What are they doing right now? And so the people in the village who cooked, and they've sent the food, and they're thinking, oh, it must be lunchtime, it must be eating. And the boys are remembering the family at home who cooked for them. So what's wonderful about Bhakti Yoga is we don't have to wait until we die and go to the spiritual world to eat with Krishna. We don't have this view that life is supposed to be a bunch of, horrendous austerity. I think Mars was talking about this earlier, people flagellating, their monks flagellating themselves. Were you talking about that? It's not like that. It's the Krishna consciousness. We talk about doing austerity. But our austerity is not eating meat, fish, and eggs. That's our austerity. Not taking intoxicating, not doing terrible things. So it's not that we have to, beat ourselves up mentally or physically and just go through some hellish life with the hope that after death we're doing it right now. We're cooking for Krishna right now. And we're serving him food, and you know what? He serves us food too. Isn't it? We cook for Krishna, and then we also eat the prasadam. It could be, we could put the plate on the altar, and Krishna could just eat all of it and say, none for you, slaves. But whatever he eats, he gives us. We eat the best food on the planet, everybody knows that. Even people who don't like us know that, isn't it? Everybody knows the Hare Krishnas have the best food on the planet. But was it Steve Jobs? He was making a speech in front of millions of people, and he was talking about how the way he survived as a poor student was by walking across town to get that great food from the Hare Krishnas. And nobody can imitate our food. Why? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was given some prasadam, he said, everybody knows what the ingredients are. But what is this taste that's not just the ingredients? I had this experience in Puerto Rico. We were serving out cookies in the university program. And I knew it was in the cookies. I was there in the kitchen when Kamagiri made them. It was as simple as you could possibly get: butter, sugar, flour, and baking powder. Maybe there was some vanilla. I mean, you just can't make a simpler cookie. And the people at this university program were all coming up to me. I was the speaker there. What's the recipe? Because what did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say? What are we getting in the prasadam?
Saliva.
The saliva of the Lord, what God tastes like. What does God taste like? So this is a great loving exchange. We're offering Krishna food with devotion. What can we offer him? What can we grow on this planet in Kali Yuga? Now, even if we have our own local organic garden, I mean, it's nothing like what he can get from Indra or from Brigham Muni, or what to speak of Lakshmi Devi and Vaikuntha. What are we offering him? But with love. You know, we don't have solid gold plates and diamond cups. But there's love. And Krishna also loves us. And he says, yes, you can also. We give him and he gives us. So this loving exchanges between the devotees and the Lord, the devotees and each other, the Lord and the devotees, is what nourishes our Krishna conscious society. Well, let me get this little story. So, town president in one temple in Europe, I will not say who or where, but they have a restaurant in the front entrance of the temple, and there's a painting in the entrance of Krishna eating with the cowherd boys, like this description. So 2 guests came, it's a restaurant, so the public is coming, so these 2 guests came, never been to the temple before, and they're sitting and talking to the temple president. And he's talking with them about how Krishna eats with his friends and how we offer food to Krishna. And as he's speaking, he said all of a sudden the painting was real. And there was Krishna and Balaram and all the cowherd boys with them in the room eating prasadam. He said it was like a momentary thing. And then these 2 guests who'd never been in a temple before looked at him and said, what just happened? Who is that? What happened in the room? What do I have to do to join your movement? So please don't think that the deities are made of stone or that the prasadam is ordinary prasadam. It's ordinary food. It's just ordinary ingredients. We're actually having a loving exchange with God. So questions, comments, Maharaj? Yes?
It's not a challenge, don't worry. There's actually a place you could call Raj, where it has the original stone that Krishna and Balaram ate from.
Ooh.
And it's indented, and you can actually see it. I think anybody else seen that stone?
The stone where Krishna and Balaram were eating?
It's actually indented. Actually, there's Balaram's
Maharaj is saying that there's an actual stone in Vrindavan and you can see that's indented and you can see the stone where Krishna and Balaram were eating.
It's Braj, Western Braj.
Western Braj.
Yes, part of the Braj Mandala parade.
Part of the Braj Mandala Parikrama. Thank you. Yes, Christopher.
We know that the relationships in the material world are fraught with great difficulty, but we do see people like, these couple married 70 years and they die 3 minutes from each other or die holding hands. So, what about things like that?
Okay, so Christopher was saying that even though there's difficulty in material relationships, we see couples married for 70 years that die holding hands. There's a drop of water in this desert. It's not that there's nothing. There's something here, but it's not enough to satisfy us. It's not enough to satisfy us. Unless we have Krishna at the center, whatever little drops we get separate from Krishna, we're not going to be happy. When we have Krishna in the center, then we can have genuine relationships between jivas also. Prabhupada ki jai.